Hello, hey, welcome to the Mother's Justice Show. And this is Shakundi Salisbury filling in for Reverend Harriet Walden, who is unable to do the show today. We're going to keep her in our prayers and thoughts as she is on her journey. And we're just keeping the show going. So this is the Mother's Justice Show here on KKNW. And please take a moment to follow us and like our pages on Facebook. And the Facebook page is Mothers for Police Accountability. And on Instagram, we are at MFPA SEA. So Mothers for Police Accountability, Seattle, if you will. So please like those, us on socials and comment, like, and we love to hear from the listeners. So today I have a very special guest with me here on the show, a person that when I was getting ready to run for office, he was getting ready to do his thing as well, and there was all kinds of rumor and innuendo. We talked a few times as he embarked on politics, and he was most certainly successful in his run, which is great. And we've seen a lot of great things from him. And that person is Council Member Rob Saka from Council District number 1, which covers West Seattle. Hey, welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you, Chakundi. Really excited to be here with you today.
Man, I appreciate you making the time. This first segment, man, I just wanted to check in with you. I hadn't really seen you like this since January. Here we are at the end of the year. And, when I was in that process for the the district number 2 seat, and I was battling against my guy Mark Solomon and Eddie Lynn and Adonis for those for those seats. So that was an interesting time earlier this year.
Yeah, that was a terrific time, but I appreciate you and everyone else who stepped up to serve and put their name in the hat. That's something that most people wouldn't do. It takes a special type of leader and a special person to step up and say, I'm just not going to complain about the problem. I want to be a part of the solution. So,
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, so that was a great time. A special shout out to our friend Mark Solomon, who
yes,
ended
sir.
up serving and I thought he did a really good job as a council member. And it was funny because and I could just say to you right now, right? I think I might have saw you a couple times between now and then, but I didn't have any hard feelings. I felt like, and people was trying to have me have hard feelings. Like, well, because you know how it is. You got your fans and your
Yeah.
supporters, and people want to pump you up. And I was like, well, for me, the box that needed to be checked was somebody that really was in community that you saw often, right? And most certainly Mark did that. He was always out and about at these meetings around public safety and community safety. Everybody knew Mark, right? A lot of homeowners, especially, know Mark and business owners because of the public safety piece. And, somebody that had worked for the city and understood what the city is about and, how the budget goes and employees and all of those things, right? And so when Mark, when you guys called out Mark's name, I was a little, but then I said, you know what? I'm good with that. And I even went and took a lot of pictures with Mark, but I still got so many inboxes. Oh, it should have been you. I said, man, time out, man. I'm with my guy. And one of the great things he did, I don't know if he did that we went to was that he had an anti-displacement summit, and that
Yep.
was something that was I felt like was really needed, and somebody I hadn't seen anybody do that before. So I hope Eddie or whoever on the council will continue that body of work. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Very important stuff. But
you know,
yeah, some people always trying to divide us, aren't they? Sometimes.
yeah.
But I thought you handled yourself very, very gracefully, and I appreciate your leadership. All that notwithstanding, and support of the district representative for Council District 2. In that case, Mark Solomon. But
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, that's good, man. I know it's been a lot of it's been a whirlwind here since the recent election and new council members and people getting sworn in. and then I've seen a lot of things that you've got going over in District 2. Now, we're going to specifically, one of the reasons we have you on the show today is to talk about your vote on the SPD contract, right? But before we get into that part of the show and those segments, just tell me a little bit about, what you've got going on in your district and some of the new things and some of your priorities right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. So to your point earlier, I represent Council District 1, which includes West Seattle, South Park, Georgetown, Pioneer Square, and Georgetown. So if you think of the city of Seattle on a map, the southwest portion of that, southwest quadrant, if you will. And so big priorities in my council district right now aren't really at a high level significantly different from other council districts. People are really concerned about the state of public safety in our city and want to see more progress, more visible progress. And the good news is SPD released some data, some crime data over the last week and shows that we're making, great initial gains year over year. But the problem is we still have to close the gap between a stat sheet and people's everyday lived experiences on the street.
Right.
So that has always been and will remain a priority for me in my office because it is a priority of my district. Also, affordability is huge right now. Making sure the city is as livable and affordable as possible, especially for working families. I'm married. I have three young kids myself, and I know it's firsthand and how expensive it is to live in the city. And I come from very humble background and origins. But if I wasn't a lawyer outside of this, probably couldn't afford to live in the city. And so my goal is to make sure that more people can live here and it's affordable for all. And then, of course, homelessness continues to be a persistent challenge. And so, for our city and my constituents, so we're going to make better progress on that. And then finally, Chikundi, I'll just note that as chair of our city's transportation committee, one of the monikers I seem to have earned along the way, you may or may not know, is the king of potholes, so to speak. So I am really focused on making sure we have a safe, efficient, reliable transportation network and set of infrastructure that is also durable and sustaining,
Right.
and people can safely and effectively navigate their way around the city however they choose to do that. So those priorities really important to me. And part of the transportation, of course, is sidewalks. I love new sidewalks. Not necessarily here to talk about that, but
No, it's
I
okay.
geek out about those kind of things.
Well, you know what? I think we have a variety of different listeners on the show, and that's why I just like to take this kind of first segment is to really introduce new people to Councilmember Saka, right? I mean, most certainly West Seattle knows you and knows your work, but there's a lot of people locally or regionally that may have heard of you or may not, and so it's always good to kind of hear from you as a council member and what your priorities are. I heard you mention affordability. So as in fact, it's not a Democratic scam word, huh?
Hardly.
Did you hear about that when the president called? He said the word affordability is a Democratic scam.
Oh my gosh, that clown! Yeah. When did he say this?
This was like last week. It's always
Oh my
something with him,
gosh,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
always something. One of the things that I thought about when I was coming on the show with you today and I was doing a little research and background, right? Of course, I already knew that you were like the transportation king, if you will. Well, no king, I know people might say, well, why do you use that word? But you're the transportation guy, right? Basically,
Sure.
as you mentioned. And I was one of these people, right? I'm from Seattle, and be quite frankly, I'm not the biggest fan of some of the bike lanes and the protected lanes, right? Because especially, I live in Southeast Seattle, not your district, of course, but many of my friends or contemporaries or people, neighbors have been, upset at how the bike lanes obviously make traffic slower, which is the intended result, right? Um, and so I was one of those people. but I fell off my scooter down on Fourth Avenue, which is in your district, right? Down to Georgetown and or the Soto basically, and I was on Fourth Avenue with those big trucks, and I hit a pothole
Hmm.
on my scooter, and I'm a big guy, right? And I basically knocked my two front teeth in, and I'm going to end up having to get implants. And I'm not saying that for a pity party or anything. I guess what I'm saying is I instantly became a fan of protected lanes for to have transportation, right? Because I realized that, and it's unfortunate. Like many things around here, it doesn't resonate oftentimes with people in general until something happens to you.
Yep. Yep.
And so, with these bike lanes. So, I mean, where are you at on the bike lanes?
Yeah. Well, first off, Chicken, I'm sorry to hear about your experience on the scooter. That sounds like a horrible experience, but I'm talking to you now and looking at you, on camera, you look healthy
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm
yeah,
blessed and highly favored, so I'm
yeah,
gonna be
yeah, yeah.
okay.
But but on the issue of bike lanes, look, ultimately what that is about, Chikundi, is protecting the most vulnerable users of our transportation network, which are generally cyclists and pedestrians. And when you look at the collision data for people who suffer the most serious bodily injuries as a result of crashes on our roads or deaths, and you look at the modes that they're taking, it's we know the major modes in the city of Seattle, right? There's
Right.
driving cars, there's transit, so buses, sound transit, there's cycling, there's walking, and there's also freight cargo mobility.
Yeah.
And which I'm personally a champion of, and that's putting aside boat and air travel as well. But those are the ones that we concentrate most exclusively on here within the city of Seattle, because those are directly within our domain and direct span of control. And ultimately, what it's about is bike lanes is protecting our most vulnerable users. And when you, like I said earlier, when you look at the data
Yeah.
about who is most impacted in terms of injuries and death, serious injuries and death,
Well,
it, it's
well,
pedestrians
yeah, you know what? I tell
cyclists.
you what, I was most certainly impacted in a real way. So
Yes,
listen,
yeah, and
hey,
and
listen.
and
So we're going to be right back. I'm sitting here talking with Councilmember Rob Saka of District 1 out in West Seattle. This is the Mother's Justice Show, and my name is Shikundi Salisbury, filling in for Reverend Harriet Walden. We'll be right back. Thanks.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way.
Hey y'all, it's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on, we've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up, be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice. Being a Black homeowner in the Pacific Northwest comes with questions, and you don't have to find the answers alone. Black Homeowner Magazine is your trusted source for support, education, and community, helping you protect your home, your equity, and your generational legacy. Inside every issue, you'll find real stories, expert guidance, and local resources, all designed to keep Black homeowners informed, connected, and rooted right here in the Pacific Northwest. Because ownership is more than property, it's community. Black Homeowner Magazine, where ownership meets community.
Miss a show on KKNW? Check out 1150kknw.com for podcasts of many of our programs. That's 1150kknw.com.
Okay, we're back here on the Mother's Justice Show. This is Shikundi Salisbury Sr. filling in for Reverend Harriet Walden. And today we are blessed with the presence of Councilmember Rob Saka of the Seattle City Council in District 1. And here to talk about all things, well, first of all, just him personally, but also around the police accountability. And I just want to get right into it with Councilmember Rob Saka. So welcome back to the segment. The first question I have for you, I guess I can now start calling you council member, huh?
Sure.
You was Rob last segment.
Good. Whatever works.
No, that's all I love. So the first question, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show here is you were one of the 3 no votes on the recent SPOG contract. You stated that it lacked the accountability and transparency Seattle deserves. Can you elaborate on the most critical gaps you see in the contract's provisions for investigations and discipline?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a no vote on that SPOG contract because fundamentally, Chikundi, I think it's a bad deal for the city of Seattle. I have a lot of experience. Some people only remember the last 2 years in office, and certain votes I took to keep Seattle safe from a broad, inclusive set of tools and diversified set of responses. But for the past decade, I spent as an attorney and advocate in the police accountability and police reform space, and helped to, for example, champion and pass a number of police accountability ballot measures that were passed by voters, and including, for example, I'm one of the chief architects of the initiative in 2020 to restore the office of the sheriff in King County from an elected position to an appointed position.
Right.
Why? Because I believe in effective civilian oversight of law enforcement. We don't live in a military junta and have uniformed personnel with weapons running amok. They report and are therefore subject to the oversight of civilians, and that's our system of government, and that's a classic hallmark, in my view, of a well-functioning democracy. And so I don't think the SPOG CBA was a good deal for the city of Seattle, namely because it didn't have the type of accountability provisions that I would personally want to see, and then I know many of my constituents want to see, and many impacted communities that suffer from like disproportionate impacts of over policing in communities want to see as well. We can dive deep here. I don't know how.
Yeah, that's really good. In fact, as you mentioned those specifics about the contract, my next question would be, you've expressed a commitment to fighting for the state level reform to remove police discipline and misconduct rules from being treated as bargaining chips, right? And here we are in this contract, right, where the bargaining chips, with the new, and this is a little bit different, right? But we know that some of the representatives will be switching over here in the next session and next year, these different seats. What specific legislation do you think at the state level do you believe is necessary to achieve the level of civilian oversight, as you mentioned, like the civilian oversight that Seattle needs?
Yes, very simple, Chikundi. At the state level, we need the state legislature to act to specifically remove the ability of police unions to collectively bargain over matters that relate to discipline and misconduct. So right. What we saw here in the city of Seattle is a deal that did not have the type of accountability provisions that many communities wanted to see. And that was really a function of the system. Don't hate the player or any of the players involved in this contract, whether it's SPOG or the city or other, like, hate the game. And the game is a bad system that's set up to keep perpetuating a system under which we're going to continue to see those kind of gaps and misalignment between community priorities and what's in the final agreed upon terms and conditions of employment. So bottom line, we need the state to act, and this is a very delicate thing. I don't want to, undermine or undersell the delicate nature of this thing, because it takes courage and it takes leadership to do what I'm talking about.
Right.
It would have to be done very, like, working collaboratively with police unions and other labor organizations, because I'm aware of slippery slope arguments of, well, once you start over here, then that's just going to open up the door to unions. No, none of that. Here's why, quickly, I'll just share, Chakundi, why I think police unions are different and therefore should be treated differently under our law, under our state law.
Thanks.
So police work is a tough job. We all know that. It's one of the toughest jobs there is.
Right.
And police work is also one of those jobs, the only job in domestically where an individual can literally use force and literally take a life on behalf of the state, on behalf of the government.
Right.
It's the only job where you can literally take a life on behalf of the government if the circumstances warrant, right? And because of that solemn responsibility, no other job is like that. And I'm not talking
but then people want to negotiate like it's the pipe fitters union or it's the like it's the plumbers. You're not working on radiators. You're working on people's lives.
This isn't scheduling flexibility that should be subject to bargaining rights. This isn't minimum staffing requirements that should be subject to negotiation. This is people's lives at stake. Police accountability and oversight. When something goes wrong, or we don't know it's gone wrong, but we want facts. We want to gather the evidence. We need to be able to effectively carry out that investigation and get to the bottom of the facts and the detail and understand what's happened. And if we don't have the appropriate tools to do that, maybe...
one of the things, I'm going to ask you about that on another occasion on being that you help, where the architect of some of those things. I think that Mothers wants to have some type of agenda, because one of the things we get into arguments about all the time in the barbershop, and I'm sure you got your people that you talk to, and people have I said this during my campaign as well, right? Not to put it back on me, but I think the average Seattleite, right, has no idea of the different complexities in the layers to the state law as it relates to the city contract and what they've bargained for, and then what power the chief may or may not have, or the city council may or may not have, right, when it comes to these individual oversight, right? And ultimately, when something bad happens, we all just point to whoever, the mayor or the chief, not even understanding of what was bargained and what was agreed upon, right? And as you mentioned, you can't be mad at the officers for bargaining to try to get the best thing for them to do what they want to do. And but we need to look at these laws and on all levels, and the contract. I've always said, people look at the contract, right? So, I'm glad that you brought that up, man. Before we get before we move on, while we move on to the next part of this segment, the next question I have for you, and I've seen these folks out and about, and I think that they've been doing some good work. You supported the contract's expansion of the community-assisted response and engagement, the care department. How do you see the care program evolving over the next 2 years? And what are some of the metrics that you'll personally use, right, as a supporter, to measure its success in reducing the reliance on sworn officers for crisis. This is something that was big to my mom. She was the one that wrote some of the or implemented some of the crisis response team back in the day. So I'm sure that she would be glad that you're supporting this part around the care department.
Yes, absolutely. So expanding our care department, our crisis responders, our trained social workers that are trained specifically to respond to certain events and crisis situations, maybe someone suffering a behavioral health crisis of some sort, and they need help. But the best help for them in that moment, at that time, isn't necessarily a badge and a gun response.
Yeah.
Social worker. So that's ergo our trained care department responders, crisis responders, and so I'm proud of my support and votes to expand that department and back it not only with legislation, but back that legislation with dollar and investment to make sure we're growing and scaling our care department so they can, because at first they were on a pilot basis, on a trial basis for limited parts of the city, namely downtown, only certain days a week. Now we grow them and scale them. They have citywide capability for longer hours. So this contract wasn't all bad. I think the totality of circumstances rendered it untenable for me personally and many communities. But one good feature of the SPOG agreement, SPOG CBA, was that it allowed the expansion of our care department. More specifically, our care department team was previously hamstrung in terms of their ability to respond directly. I've actually taken walking tours, Chikundi, with our care department pre bargaining, pre recent agreement, and it was great. We got to walk the streets and see people in need. But under the rules of engagement at the time, like they have socks, fresh socks and snacks for people and care kits for people in crisis. And I'll never forget, Chikundi, we were walking the streets of downtown 3rd Avenue near that McDonald's, and we turned the corner on 3rd, and we saw a gentleman in clear crisis, in clear, needed some help, pants all the way down, half exposed to the world. And Chikundi, I'll tell you, if there was ever one person in need of a helping hand and of a caring, compassionate moment response or a pair of socks, it was this gentleman. But under the rules of engagement at the time, the social workers were unable to engage proactively with this person because SPD had to respond in parallel. So this contract allows them to be more proactive, move away from our dual dispatch model where they have to respond alongside and with uniformed police officers, and now they can do more of that work and respond independently and proactively, which I think is a great.
That's a really good thing, man. Like I said, Reverend Walden was a big supporter of the crisis intervention, and I've seen those the trucks, and I've seen some of those folks, and that's what people asked for. We said we wanted this, and I think that we don't hear about it enough. So that I'm glad that you mentioned that is a great element of this new contract. Hey, so listen, everybody, we're listening here. We've got Councilmember Rob Saka of the Seattle City Council here on the Mother's Justice Show. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Hey, y'all. It's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on, we've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way. Being a Black homeowner in the Pacific Northwest comes with questions, and you don't have to find the answers alone. Black Homeowner Magazine is your trusted source for support, education, and community, helping you protect your home, your equity, and your generational legacy. Inside every issue, you'll find real stories, expert guidance, and local resources, all designed to keep Black homeowners informed, connected, and rooted right here in the Pacific Northwest. Because ownership is more than property, it's community. Black Homeowner Magazine, where ownership meets community. When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up. Be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice.
Broaden your horizons. You'll be amazed at all the topics we cover on Alternative Talk 1150.
Hey, welcome back to the Mother's Justice Show here on KKNW 1150 AM. This is Shikundi Salisbury Sr., and I'm filling in for Reverend Dr. Harriet Walden, who is unable to join us today, but we are keeping her in our prayers. And today on the show, we've got Councilmember Rob Saka of the City of Seattle City Council and representing District 1. And he recently voted no on the Seattle police contract. And so we're talking a little bit about that contract and police accountability and civilian oversight and legislation and all those types of things right here on the Mother's Justice Show. So welcome back, Rob. The next question I have for you was, you've cited the lack of broad subpoena power for the Civilian Office of Police Accountability as a key reason for your no vote. What are your next steps to secure this, or are there other necessary oversight tools outside of the collective bargaining process?
Yeah, so thank you, Chikundi. I'll just to close off our conversation from earlier, there's a lot of good community wins, some decent community wins in this contract, including the expansion of our crisis care team and allowing us to move away from the dual dispatch model where they have to go with a police officer and a social worker. Now they can just proactively respond. But make no mistake, expansion of care team ain't the same thing as accountability. Right. And that's what I was hoping to see more of. And you mentioned one specific example that is a key example, but in something that I will need to see on a going forward basis if I'm ever going to support a future collective bargaining agreement with SPOG. But all that does is allow our civilian oversight authorities. So you're familiar with the Community Police Commission.
Oh yeah,
which the Reverend Walden, the great Reverend Walden, was a past co-chair of. But there's also so that's one of our civilian accountability partners. But the main ones with the strongest teeth to actually investigate these allegations of misconduct and incidents involving uses of force incidents are our Office of Inspector General and Office of Police Accountability. And so subpoena power would allow them to compel testimony from officers, to compel the production of certain key evidence or records, including evidence and records held by third parties, because the police chief today can go and request, as part of a disciplinary or investigation, requests records directly from the officer, not in dispute. What I am advocating for is the ability of our civilian oversight agencies and officials to exercise that authority up to and including over third parties that are not directly that officer. So, for example, this could be bank records. So the bank could be private like chat messages, if there's some direct nexus on social media or something, so
Yeah,
social
or
media
Signal.
companies, et cetera, et cetera. So one of my earlier efforts at the county level helped champion and pass some police accountability reforms. One of those was granting express subpoena power for the King County's Civilian Office of Law Enforcement Oversight, OLEO. We have 3, they have 1. But my point is, voters approved that. Even the county's sheriff guild, their police union at the county level, they agreed to that in their most recent version. They agreed to subpoena authority. We haven't. We need to close that gap and do so quickly. There are other accountability gaps that we need to close, like top of mind, including the whole arbitration process. It's out of hand if an arbitrator can go ahead and overturn the disciplinary and misconduct findings and like discipline determination of a police chief.
Right.
I don't think that should be the case. So, but there are in the standards of review that these arbitrators are looking at these cases.
So to be clear, though, with the with the contract just being signed and ratified, if you will, what is there an opportunity for community to advocate for this for this change, or will that be in the next contract? Is that something you can make an amendment to, or is that just it is what it is to the next contract?
That's right. This is now the signed law of the land, if you will, a signed definitive agreement between the city of Seattle and SPOG, and so it's in place until I think it expires end of 27. Don't quote me.
Right.
It's in effect. It's retroactive for about a year and expires in about 2 or 3 years. And so the next opportunity will be, unless and until this the state law reform that I'm calling for is changed in the near term. The next opportunity won't be until that's up for renewal. And so in the meantime, I think the solution is the call to action at the state level to specifically demand that we remove the ability of police unions to bargain away discipline and misconduct matters.
Right. So that's something for Chapalo to work on as he goes on back, this last term. I mean, one of the things you just mentioned, I think, and we are, you can tell I'm always in the barbershop, right? Because I most certainly am close to, my community and I'm accessible. So I get all these questions, whether I'm in Safeway or whatever. But then obviously I talk to people like you or people like former Chief Best or Chief Barnes or all types of folks, right? And so I kind of know both sides of it. And one of the things that I routinely get into it with people online or in the barbershop salons is when they're upset that officer such and such did this terrible thing and somehow they were put on paid leave, and I have to remind them the paid leave is part of the contract. They're in the union. The chief can't like take their pay, right? And then they go to this arbitration, and even if as a result of this discipline, the department deems them as, hey, this was a terrible act and we don't want you here anymore, the arbitrator could in fact say, you know what, you guys were a little heavy handed. We're going to give this officer back their job, right? And that is that the chief doesn't have the power to overturn that. So here comes this officer that people in the community have probably witnessed and say, yeah, this is not the type of officer we want. And even the chief or the internal people have said, yeah, we agree with that. This was a little too far. We're going to let this person go. And then they get their job back. And then, of course, people blame who? The chief, right? They say, you're a terrible chief. And I have to remind, I said, well, the chief hands is tied in that type of situation, right? And that's what you're talking about, this ability to bargain away this whole arbitration piece with a person that doesn't even work or be a part of our system here. They're not in our community. They, and so that's one of the things I feel like we should have is some type of civilian oversight into that piece, at least a part of that arbitration But I just think that a lot of people, and that's why I'm reiterating what you said. I know you're like, yeah, I just said that, but I'm reiterating it for the listeners, for folks, that this is why you, in fact, see officers with repeated things on. This is one of the reasons why. Now, there's been other reasons, but this is most certainly one of the reasons why you could see officers who've had repeated incidents and repeated discipline. However, they are allowed to be back on the force because of this arbitration. And that's what you're talking about, right? When you say that we need to look at that process.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the most egregious examples of lack of accountability. What happens through the arbitration process? To your point, many, sometimes oftentimes those disciplinary determinations and findings are reversed or overturned or watered down or diluted, and communities end up frustrated. So,
yeah. Yeah, that's just a terrible thing. But, being that, the next question I really wanted to talk to you about before we get into the next segment, before the break, is community engagement and consensus building. I keep talking about how parts of our community, right? If you're up there on Dale Ridge, you go into the barbershop with Mo and them, they got one opinion, and then you got other people. How can we, basically, there's so much opposition and division around the contract, and I would even ascertain that there's a lot of uneducation. People just they don't know what the contract is. How will your office work to strengthen this direct engagement in community with the police reform advocates, people that want this reform, but also, all these new officers? We've got all these brand new officers. How are you going to help to bridge this gap and build some trust?
Absolutely. And it's a great question. And that's ultimately what my opposition to the most recent SPA contract was all about, was trying to bridge the gap and bring communities together. Before this contract, I visited many a roll call at various precincts within the city of Seattle Police Department precincts. Every chance I get, if I see an officer out on the street in the community, I try to make it a point to go out of my way to say hello and thank them for their service. And my opposition to this contract, by the way, just for crystal clarity, was not about me or anybody being anti-police or anti whatever it is, or pro-cop or anti-cop. Like, we need to avoid those divisive labels, and they're counterproductive.
Right.
I support the officers in the city of Seattle and everywhere who are serving with pride and integrity and are doing their jobs and want a better system. And I also want to be careful about the dangers of broad brush labeling.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all officers are bad or all, like, look, as a black man, I and you too, like, we know what the broad brush labels look like and how they feel. We are a diverse community. We are not a monolith. And so I want to make sure, we're talking about some of the nuance here as well.
Yeah.
That said, I expect accountability, given the sovereign authority inherent in that role that we talked about earlier, the ability to take a life, and want to do so in a fair manner that respects constitutional rights. But again,
well, you know what? And it's funny, when you say broad brush, right? Especially people that's from here. And if you're black and you're from Seattle, you most certainly have seen some amazing black police officers who have demonstrated that they do love our community, right? And I often get, pushback from people who use that broad brush piece when they talk about police officers. And I can say I know some great officers. Now, I've seen some bad officers or officers that didn't demonstrate their love of our community, but most certainly I've seen many that have. And it's good to hear you have that aversion to the term, this broad brush painting of all officers. So listen, we're going to be right back in our final segment. I'm sitting here with Councilmember Rob Saka of the Seattle City Council, who represents West Seattle and District 1, as well as other areas like Georgetown in South Park and the like. And we'll be right back on the Mother's Justice Show here on KKNW 1150.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way.
Hey y'all, it's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on, we've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up, be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice. Being a Black homeowner in the Pacific Northwest comes with questions, and you don't have to find the answers alone. Black Homeowner Magazine is your trusted source for support, education, and community, helping you protect your home, your equity, and your generational legacy. Inside every issue, you'll find real stories, expert guidance, and local resources, all designed to keep Black homeowners informed, connected, and rooted right here in the Pacific Northwest. Because ownership is more than property, it's community. Black Homeowner Magazine, where ownership meets community.
Get your daily dose of variety. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hey, welcome back to the Mother's Justice Show here on KKNW. This is Shikundi Salisbury, and I'm filling in for Reverend Harriet Walden, who's not able to do the show today again. And I'm blessed to be joined here by Councilmember Rob Saka of the Seattle City Council. He recently voted no on the police contract, and we know that that contract was a long time coming. So I felt like this would be a great time to check in with him and just talk about police accountability and obviously why he voted no, and also his vision for moving forward around police accountability here and public safety in the city of Seattle. So, yeah, Councilmember Saka, welcome back.
Thank you.
You know, so as we get into the final segment here, I just wanted to ask you, you know, beyond, so yeah, we talked about the contract and there was a couple of good things in there, a lot of questionable things, which obviously led to you voting no, right? So, but beyond the immediate contract issues, you know, what is your longer term vision for public safety in Seattle over the next 5 years? You know, what's the ideal balance between traditional police enforcement, if you will, and response, alternative responses, and proactive community solutions?
You just said you just summed up the solution right there. And that is my vision at a high level. So my goal is to help create a safer Seattle for all, where we can all thrive and where no one, irrespective of your background and race or ethnicity or sexual orientation, LGBTQ status, national origin, whatever it is, you can be the very best version of your true self, whatever that means for you, and do so in a way that you're free from the threat or fear of unequal justice whenever you encounter a law enforcement officer. Because
right.
as a Black man, I was born in Minneapolis, lived out in Seattle, you know, area since like high school, middle school age, but I had my own negative interactions with law enforcement. And to be more explicit, you know, I had the needs of injustice pressed up against my neck in
Yeah.
my early 20s for some nonsense that should have never happened. And but for the color of my skin, I don't think would have ever happened. And that was in Minneapolis. That was the Minneapolis PD, by the way.
Right.
And so my calls for stronger police accountability, Chikundi, and my calls for stronger civilian oversight are ultimately a call for stronger public safety for all. So that's what it's about.
Yeah.
A diversified response model where there is still a role for police.
Yeah,
today,
clearly.
no mistake. But we also ask police to do too much at the same time. That's why I'm glad that this contract allows the expansion of social workers to respond to many instances where
Well, you know what? Specifically on that question, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about, or just kind of expand on that and get your thoughts on, because I think our community and community in general, people in Seattle, especially the activist community, speaks highly of proactive community-based solutions, right? And what does that mean to you, right? Like we have some people, we have some violence interrupters, but what would you like to see or in this area of community-based solutions, right? Because that's just now speaking of broad brush, that is often used in a broad way in all types of arguments. But where do you fall in on this community-based solutions piece?
Well, for that, we need a multifaceted interagency approach to address public safety through community-based solutions. So for me, that looks like in terms of response to an incident or a public safety challenge that has already occurred. I think about three departments, three co-equal chiefs that we have here within the city of Seattle. Our police chief, it's our police department, our fire chief, fire department, and our new crisis care department chief. Each of those three chiefs play a critical and mission critical and essential role in responding to public safety incidents and challenges once they already happen. And look forward to, and I think we need to get, and I'm glad we're starting to restore officer staffing levels, because as part of this whole trust building effort, we need more police to get out of the patrol cars and into the community.
Yeah, no, into community. I guess where I was going with that is I was at a community meeting with folks the other day, not in your district, but they've got this thing called the Central District Community Safety Action Committee, and I went and I was telling folks the story about how in the 80s, in the early 90s, we had these guardian angel type of people, and we had community members, right? I just remember when the Crips came up here, they was on Cherry and crack hit, and it was wild. And back then we didn't. It was like we were under attack by kind of two forces. We had community people, we had selling dope. Then you had the police kind of attacking black people in a way. And I think people kind of rose up and said, we're going to take back our block. So when I hear about community, public, community-based solutions, that's what I always think about is regular community people getting involved, knowing who the officers are in your community, calling them, right? I remember back in the day, we used to have police trading cards. People knew who that officer was too. And we could talk to some of the cool officers that we knew. So anyway, that's just, one of the things that came to mind when I was thinking about community-based solutions.
I love it. My vision for public safety, Chikundi, is inclusive of everything you just talked about. It also includes more like after-school programming for our youth. One thing we know, and this is somebody who grew up and overcame abject poverty. I was on free and reduced lunch, Section 8, all those things. So I know what it's like to struggle, and I know what it's like firsthand to want and to need basic human needs. And so, but the number one thing that we can do as a prevention strategy, I talked a moment ago about once something bad happens, like then what? But to prevent all that is empowering our youth with opportunities to positive opportunities for jobs, youth skilling, job training programs, after school programs, getting people, productive, beneficial things to do with their time rather than just hang around, with a bunch of knuckleheads on the block, like, I used to do sometimes when I was in high school. So good things generally don't flow from that. The
Yeah,
number one
no,
thing, can I be honest, because this is actually a complex topic, as you know, and you might have just opened up a can of worms, but I'll close on one thing about this,
yes,
because this is important, because we need to discern, once something bad already happens, and prevention. And we talked a little bit about both of those. The number one thing that I think as a prevention strategy to address our public safety challenges that we can all do and be proud of if we get it done is we need to invest finally in universal free childcare for all, universal
yeah,
free preschool for all programs in the city of Seattle. We know the research is very clear, Chikundi. People who have been in a formal daycare preschool program, kids at 2, 3, 4, whatever, their high school completion rates are higher than their peers who don't. Their college entrance rates are higher. Their longer-term employment prospects are higher. Like they end up they generally aren't entrapped in the criminal legal justice system. Their life outcomes are so much better. And so that is the number one thing we can do, in my opinion, to prevent our public safety challenges tomorrow, is to invest in them right here and today with early childhood education. And I'm gonna be looking to do that in the city of Seattle, but I also think the state of Washington, and especially the federal government, who have much deeper pocketbooks
right.
than our city, that they should play a central role. It's going to take all of us, Chikundi. We can't just keep pointing fingers and assigning blame, and it takes all of us, up to
Yeah, that's true. And one of the things that I always felt like we should be doing, and I reached out to the chief about this, and I reached out to a couple of chiefs about this, is and being that you grew up around here, partially, right, formative years. One of the things that I really would like to see, and I hope that maybe what you could support, and I'm not here to lobby you, if you will. This is just something I always say, right? Is that I just want to see more jobs, including jobs including police jobs, right, for young people who's from this community, right? And you have people that are 24, 25, 26, right, grew up here, know the neighborhood, right? And you would think that we would, and I just recently did see some better like recruitment some advertisers where they had actually people like Roselle and Monique and on these ads that said, "Hey, join us." And I was super excited to see that, because I mean, at the end of the day, these are most certainly life-changing jobs financially, right? But they also can be able to build that connection between Seattleites and people that's really from here and know that neighborhood.
Jobs stop bullets. Jobs stop broken windows and burglaries. And I couldn't agree more. And we need to empower people. Communities don't want handouts. People want opportunities. People want to be connected with opportunities. And so that's a central part of our broader public safety strategy as well. So thank
Well,
you.
man, I appreciate you coming on the show today, Rob, and I appreciate your insight. And honestly, I appreciate your what do they call that? Just your leadership around being the bravery to be able to vote no, being that you've been in the armed services and all that, right? Like, so you know what it is, right? But you still was like, nah, I'm not voting for that. And I felt like, I wanted to have you on the show for you to explain that to people that, one, yes, we do need police, right? But at the end of the day, we need them, and we need the tools in place to have them act accordingly, to have true public safety in our community. So, I thank you for your service, and I most certainly will be seeing you around in 2026. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, sir. My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Brother Chikundi. Appreciate you and all you do.
All right, my brother. Peace. All right, so that was Councilmember Rob Saka here on the Mother's Justice Show. This is Shikundi Salisbury, and make sure you follow us on socials. On Facebook is Mothers for Police Accountability, and on Instagram at MFPASEA. This is the show this week, and we'll see you next time here on the Mother's Justice Show on KKNW 1150. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
We ended